Welcome on in to Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson hanging out with you all right before the NFL Draft. 24 hours to go. I cannot wait. We've been building up for this moment. We've been talking all about the draft here on the channel. And finally, all of our hard work and all of our mock drafts and all of our draft targets will hopefully pay off. And hopefully the Falcons will make some great selections. So if you're going to be hanging out with us for round one of the 2024 NFL Draft, type me in the comment section right now. Just want to get a good head count. Want to make sure I've got enough food, enough drinks. Quick power ranking right now. What's your favorite go-to past app? If you're at a wedding or you're at a cocktail hour and that lady comes out of the kitchen with the platter, what are you going to be hunting down?
That's interesting.
For me, it's the mini corn dogs or like the pigs in a blanket.
Yes.
I will be on that person's tail. That or bacon wrapped scallops.
Okay.
If it's a nice event.
If it's a nice one, right?
Yeah.
I think really just any cheese I'm good with.
Oh, I like that. Cheese is good. Cheese is good. Cody's going to be hanging out with us. Tie-Man, Archangel, Axel Perez, Curtis B. I'll try, but I'll be at work. Quit your job, Curtis. Quit your job, dude. Tell your boss to go fuck himself and then come hang out with us. Andrew, Marlon, Clayton Anderson. We got so many people hanging out with us tomorrow. I cannot wait. Now, shout out your city for me in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from, as we already have about 80 people hanging out with us. Precisely 79. The Falcons have the 79th pick in the draft. This could be a sign that pick 79 might be a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and I think you might be going over who could go at 79, right? Or no, you... Well, I
don't spoil. What the fuck, dude?
I don't want to spoil.
No spoilers. No
spoilers.
Landon's in Rochester, New York. I've got Alpha in Jacksonville, Thomasville, Savannah, Warner Robins, Irving, Texas from Atlanta Dog, David's in Mississippi, Macon, Georgia, Jose's in Atlanta. I've got Ontario in the house. Let's see, Archangel's in McDonough, Georgia, by way of College Park, Georgia. Savannah, Cody's in Noonan, Tie-Man the Buckeye representing the Ohio State. Curtis is in Atwater, California, Kenneth in ATL, and I've got Bodine in Albany, Patrick in Memphis, and Andre in Rio de Janeiro. And then finally, Wisconsin, represented by Ambitions. Yeah, Ambitions having some spotted cow for all of us. So we're going to get to a loaded live show for you all in just a moment, but I do have to shout out our sponsor today, which is Game Time. If you want to go catch a playoff basketball or hockey game, depending on where you live, or you want to go see a Braves game, whatever your heart desires, do it with Game Time, because they're going to give Falcons fans $20 off their first purchase when you use code CHATSPORTS. So if you are thinking of going to a sporting event, a concert, or any other ticketed event in your local area, give Game Time a visit first, because I look at that $20 savings as just Game Time going, hey, we'll pick up the tab for your parking. We'll take care of your first concession run, whatever it is. So would you rather have $20 or would you rather not have $20? I always take the $20. So download Game Time today and use that code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. I already put all this information in the comments and description of today's video. Shout out to Game Time for supporting us here at Falcons Today. Game Time, it's the best place for the last-minute tickets with the lowest price guaranteed. Now, a proposition that has risen up lately is the Falcons trading back from pick number 8. Is that something you're interested in? Because there's always a couple different trains of thought. GMs always are egotistical, and they believe if you give them more picks, they can make more great selections. They think they are God's gift to the NFL, and if you give them 8 picks instead of 6 picks, they can find 2 more good players. I do think there is an overarching belief that quantity is better than quality in the NFL draft. I prefer the quality route. I'd rather have 5 great picks than 7 good picks. But if someone gives you an offer you can't refuse, then yeah, of course you're going to be interested. Or if you like the guy, but you don't love the guy you were going to take at number 8, maybe a combination of an additional second and like the 15th overall pick nets you a better draft class. So what do you guys say? Diego says stay. Kenneth says stay. Tyman says trade. Keith says trade. Christopher says trade. Savage Falcon says stay. Curtis says trade. Obviously, it's easier to answer this question if you know like what the two different outcomes would be, who you would take if you stayed, and who you would get if you traded back. But I think at the core of this question, can you live without Dallas Turner? Because that's the most likely pick at number 8. I think if you ask that question to like a Titans fan, could you live without Joe Alt? I think their answer should be no, right? No, I don't care who we're going to get at pick 15 and then at pick 58. I want Joe Alt. But could you have a mock draft where you don't get Dallas Turner? Because that's really what's most likely if you trade out of pick number 8.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Honestly, I'm in the business of trying to at least maintain.
Yeah.
But if it really comes down to it, scared money don't make money. So, like, if it needs to be, like, if I see a guy, whether it's Dallas Turner, whether it's a Roma Dunze or whomever, right, I'm getting my guy if it comes down to it. But, like, I understand the value of also trading back because, like you said, for the Falcons, right, if you could get Dallas Turner, if I told you you could get Dallas Turner at 11 plus additional draft capital.
Right, then it's a no-brainer.
Exactly. So, but that's also the risk and reward that you're running whenever you're in the NFL.
I would love to sit down with the GM and ask him the exact idea or scenario that Cullen just proposed of you can get your player later on. Of course you would do that trade because you're getting your player in a pick. But if you're unsure if you could get your player later on, but you're willing to roll the dice on it, is that something teams do? Like, do they risk losing out on their guy, in this case, say Dallas Turner, to move back 5, 6, 7 spots, but maybe get a good player in round 2? Or are GMs going, no, if we know that's our guy, we're not going to mess around. We're not going to get cutesy with it. We're not going to roll the dice and get an extra second for our risk here.
Right.
I think if they know that's their guy, they stay put.
Right.
They don't try and get fancy and go, ooh, but we could get him later and a second rounder.
Right.
Like, you're just going to regret that looking back at it. And if you're like, well, we knew he'd be special, but we really wanted the 54th overall pick. The 54th overall pick could produce shit.
Good.
Go look at some previous drafts. Another subject I want to just bring up on your radar, Michael Penix. Adam Schefter, Jeremy Fowler, just two of the most recent and highly notable NFL insiders, have both mentioned Atlanta Falcons when talking about Michael Penix. So would you draft Penix at 8 or 53? Just overall, are you interested in getting Michael Penix? I do think Michael Penix is a really good quarterback. He's my 4th quarterback in this draft class. My rankings go Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix. But I just think that this is not the year for Atlanta to go get a quarterback with one of their first 2 picks. When they have created a win-now window for the remaining years of Kirk Cousins' contract, you should use your top 50 picks to improve the surrounding cast to maximize the investment you just made in Kirk Cousins. Not to use a top 50 pick on a guy that cannot help this team win in the next 2 years. Sure, if Kirk Cousins gets injured, we're having a different conversation. But assume Kirk Cousins stays healthy, which he has done his entire NFL career, minus last year. I think you should use that pick on a player that can help you get stops on defense or score touchdowns on offense. That's my 2 cents. I would say pass. And I think Michael Penix can have a really good career elsewhere. I just don't think it's right for Atlanta to use a top 50 pick on a backup quarterback.
I would say this. Remember the backlash that the Packers got whenever they drafted Jordan Love
right.
when they had Aaron Rodgers? I would argue that if you took Michael Penix at 8, it would actually be worse than what the Packers did. Because although I don't think Kirk Cousins is the type of caliber that 2-time MVP Aaron Rodgers once was,
right?
The fact that you have this premium of draft capital when you have a clear need and you potentially could have the first choice on your side of the ball to draft him and then you go essentially a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
That would be worse than what Green Bay did.
See, for the Packers situation there, one, Atlanta going at 8 with Michael Penix cannot be put into the same bucket as Jordan Love to the Packers. He went 26.
Right.
Like,
Right.
the Packers at 26, it's not easy to find surefire things. At 8, you can find surefire things. Players that every single GM would agree on, he's going to make a great football player. There's a huge drop-off. 2, right now it's looking good for the Packers with that Jordan Love selection. You know, they were patient, and after one season, it's kind of paying off. But I go back to, like, let me look at that NFL draft. Let me just land this plane for you all. 2020 NFL draft.
Because he was the 4th QB taken, or was the 3rd?
You had Joe Burrow, you had
Yeah,
Tua, you had Herbert, you had Jordan Love go 26. The Packers passed on players like Patrick Queen, T. Higgins. If Green Bay had T. Higgins, I think they may have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, because that was still, Devontae was still there at that point.
Yeah.
So can you imagine T. Higgins, Devontae Adams?
So sure,
Yeah.
like would you rather have one Super Bowl or have Jordan Love for the next 10 years? I think they would take the Soupy.
Yeah.
They passed on Jonathan Taylor. They passed on Antoine Winfield.
Yeah.
They passed on Jalen Johnson, Trevon Diggs. Like, they passed on some good players.
Right.
I don't want to see Atlanta make that. I wouldn't call it a mistake for Green Bay, but I think it'd be a mistake for Atlanta.
That's fair.
All right. We do have a mailbag coming up at the end of the show, by the way. So hashtag Falcons right now. Or you can super chat if you want to support the show in more ways than just liking and commenting. Super chats are greatly appreciated, of course. They go above and beyond, and we show you some extra love. But if you have a question you want to ask related to the NFL draft, hashtag Falcons in the chat. That way our software can identify the question, pull it, and put it on screen. All right. Coming up on today's show, though, latest news and rumors. Plus, we're going to get into my final 7-round mock draft for Atlanta. And then that mailbag we were just telling you all about. So, get excited. I'm excited. 142 people hanging out with us at the moment. 26 likes. Does not tell me I'm doing a very good job. So, if you have not liked the video yet and you do like the stream, do consider hitting the thumbs up button. I'm ready. We're at 27 likes. When we get to 40 likes, get 13 more likes, we will have liftoff. 10 likes to go. 10 likes to go. I've got questions coming in from Jake. Good job, Jake. Matthew Petey fan, good to see you. Change a profile picture as well. I see Andrew's asking a question. We're at 36 likes. 4 likes to go. Landon's asking a question. We got some intelligent people. I like it. I watched, I think I said that. I'm watching Ted, the TV show.
Yep.
And this is not making for good radio, but Ted was making a deal with the school principal, and the principal was like, "Why should I do this for you guys?" And Ted's like, "The next time you bring in a speaker for the school, I'll ask a meaningful question at the end," which was just the funniest thing because I remember after they brought in the say no to drugs and officer friendly speakers to your class, they would always ask who has questions, and no one had a question.
True story. When I was in elementary school,
Yeah.
they had us all in the lunchroom or whatever, and they had a whole presentation or whatever.
Right.
And I got picked to be the person in the presentation for the say no to drugs thing, and it did not go well. He had basically he was hold on to this towel because it was basically you hang on to this towel, you're showing your resilience to drugs or something like that. And he was trying to swing because I'm a little kid.
Yeah.
So he's trying to swing me around or whatever. I let go of that thing multiple times or whatever.
Calling at a young age is I can't wait to smoke pot. We're going to get high as fuck. All right.
I don't know what you're talking about, Petey.
Here we go. We're at 48 likes. Let's do this thing. Let's jump into a live edition of Falcons Today. Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about Atlanta potentially trading pick number 8. And then we're going to unpack a recent report that has the Falcons going QB on the earlier side. But make sure to subscribe really quickly because we're going to be going live on round 1 and then providing videos for every single pick that Atlanta makes. And I don't want you to miss out on any of the fun this weekend for the NFL draft. So hit the sub button down below. Now let's talk about the Falcons potentially shopping pick number 8. So first off, some context. The NFL announced via Adam Schefter that no decision on the tampering allegations just allegations, allegedly, for Kirk Cousins will be made pre-draft. And I think that's very important for the Falcons because that means if they are bracing for a punishment, if they know they're guilty and they know the evidence is low-hanging fruit, which I would think a punishment would have been decided pre-draft if that was the case, they may know that a storm is coming for them in next year's draft. So they may be thinking ahead a little bit going, we should probably trade back, even if we don't love the idea of it, because we want to get a 2025 second-round pick because we are afraid we may lose a day 2 or maybe even a first-round pick next year. So there's been a recent surge of teams looking to trade up. No surprise. It is smokescreen season. You're going to see a lot of information. Some of it you have to think, why is this information coming out? So just always have that stored in the back of your head. But let's get into some paths that could develop that would allow the Falcons to trade the 8th overall pick. Path number 1, a team wants a top 3 wide receiver. This to me seems like the simplest path for the Atlanta Falcons trading the 8th overall pick. If a team wants Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, and Malik Nabers, and one of those 3 guys, most likely Odunze or Nabers, is still available at pick number 8, they could be taking down a cell tower in Atlanta to try and get the Falcons' 8th overall pick. Here's what Dan Graziano from ESPN had to say in an article of his. The people I talked to think we're likely to see more trades in the second half of the first round than in the first half. The Colts, Jags, Rams, and Eagles are all teams I've heard have been making calls about potentially moving up. So remember 2 of those teams that Graziano mentions, the Colts and the Jags, because shortly after reading what he wrote, I came across a tweet from Daniel Jeremiah that says, looking at possible teams for an Ayuk trade, and I keep coming back to the same 2, Colts and Jags. So if those 2 teams are willing to trade their first-round picks this year and probably a little bit more, don't you think they would be willing to take the same amount of resources they were going to give to Ayuk and move up to pick number 8 to get Rome Odunze or Malik Nabers right before the Chicago Bears at 9, who have been heavily mocked and rumored to be going Rome Odunze at pick 9? So the Atlanta Falcons could be sitting on a gold mine, and they may be looking to get some future draft capital because they could be bracing from a tampering allegations, allegedly, punishment. That's path number 1. Path number 2. Teams want to move up for an offensive tackle. This draft is loaded specifically in 3 positions, I'd say. Quarterback, wide receiver, offensive tackle. So because it's so deep at offensive tackle, you could see some patience from some teams towards the back of the line. Or you could see them go, let's jump up and let's go get our number 1 tackle. Daniel Jeremiah also tweeting out, to summarize my last 5 phone calls, everyone is moving up for an offensive tackle. Now, I see that, and then I also read an Athletic mock draft where they went beat reporter by beat reporter making deals, and this one definitely caught my eye because it had the Falcons not only making a trade out of pick number 8, but to the New Orleans Saints, of all teams, which I really struggle wrapping my mind around ever happening. But Terry Fontenot did come from New Orleans, so maybe him and Mickey Loomis still have a good relationship, and they decide this is a trade that benefits both clubs, where the Saints go from 14 to 8, because if there is one thing New Orleans is taking this year, it is an offensive tackle. Trevor Penning sucks. Ryan Ramczyk is injured. Andres Pete is a free agent. Their top 3 guys are either injured, free agents, or bad at football. So I could see them moving up to get their number 1 tackle. And Atlanta drops back 6 spots and picks up another top 50 draft pick. I could see both sides going, listen, we may not like each other. We hate each other. But this is a win-win for both parties. And to be honest, I don't want to see Atlanta help New Orleans be successful. But I don't hate this trade for the Falcons. Like, one, they may get the player they were going to get at 8, at 14, just based on the team needs between 9 to 13, not reflecting a lot of similarities to Atlanta's. And if they don't get their guy, they may get a guy they like just as much and still have another top 50 draft pick to use. So as much as I hate the idea for the Falcons making a deal with the Saints, the devil, this could be something that both sides walk away from feeling like they're on top. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's video, I do want to highlight our terrific sponsor here at Chat Sports, Game Time. If you enjoy the content we produce, go check out Game Time because they are helping us keep the lights on. And with that being said, if you want to go see a Braves game, a playoff basketball or hockey game, or any other local sporting event, concert, comedy show, download Game Time today because they're giving Falcons fans $20 off their first purchase with the code CHATSPORTS. What I love about Game Time is you can click all in price right from their homepage, so you don't get bamboozled into what the actual price is for your tickets when you get to the checkout portion. So once again, download the Game Time app, and when you create an account, first-time users can get $20 off with the code CHATSPORTS. Terms apply, but once again, use that code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Don't worry, I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Shout out to Game Time for supporting us here at Falcons Today. Game Time, it's the best place for the last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. That's path number 2 for Atlanta trading out of 8. Path number 3, J.J. McCarthy begins to fall. And I'm putting these paths, by the way, in order of likelihood in my eyes. But when you look at the top 10 of the NFL draft, maybe New England stays at 3. I don't think maybe. I think New England stays at 3 and goes Drake May. What if the Cardinals say, sorry, but we're not trading out of 4. We want Marvin Harrison, and no one's going to make an offer worth it. So now you're at the Chargers at 5. They've got Justin Herbert. They could trade the pick, but they also could stay put and just take Joe Alt because that's what Harbaugh wants to do. And then you land at the New York Giants, who could have a lot of interest in J.J. McCarthy, or maybe that's been a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors to drive up interest. They could take J.J. McCarthy just to see if anyone would trade for their 6th overall pick. And they ultimately fall back on their big board, which has Malik Neighbors higher. And now you've got the Titans at 7, who I think like Will Levis, and maybe they go Rome Odunze to pair with Will Levis, and all of a sudden the Atlanta Falcons at pick number 8 could be a hot commodity for a team like the Minnesota Vikings that weren't going to jump up all the way from 11 to 4 or 3 or 5, but they could swing for the 8th overall pick, which would be the most picturesque, perfect trade for Atlanta because the Falcons get Kirk Cousins, the Vikings get J.J. McCarthy, and we'll know in 4 to 5 years who made the right decision, free agency or the draft, to build your quarterback room. So I don't think that one has a whole lot of legs to it, but a lot of people thought Will Levis would go top 10 last year. Guy went round 2. So maybe we see J.J. McCarthy slip a little bit. Now, with that all being asked, if you were in charge, would you trade back from 8 or would you stay? We're going to look at one more path for Atlanta, but just as things stand right now, pulse check on all the viewers, what would you do? Stay or trade back? Path number 4, this is where I kind of started the beginning of the video at. Atlanta really wants 2025 draft picks to the point where they're not the ones answering the phone. They're the ones making the phone call, trying to get more picks for 2025, even if that means taking a trade that by the trade value chart doesn't have them coming out smelling super great. If they're that desperate because they are so afraid of picks being stripped away from them next year that they want to get extra picks so they still stay at even keel. I mean, Adam Schefter did say earlier this week that the Falcons and Eagles' ongoing tampering allegations investigation will not conclude this week. And right now, as things stand, Atlanta has 6 picks for the 2025 NFL Draft. Their 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. They don't have a 6th. That went to the Rams for Van Jefferson, but they do have a 7th that came from the Rams for Van Jefferson. And they don't have an extra 7th that was traded to Contavious Street from the Eagles. So with that all being said, let's switch gears and talk about the possibility of Atlanta going QB early in the draft because there's been a lot of recent smoke that links Michael Penix to the Falcons. And here's what Jeremy Fowler had to say most recently. Multiple people have told me this week that they believe the Falcons like Penix a lot. Enough to take him number 8 overall? That's hard to say. But he'll likely be long gone by the time the Falcons are on the clock again at number 43. Falcons brass, including Terry Fontenot and head coach Raheem Morris, flew all the way to Seattle to watch Penix work out for a few hours, then flew home. No dinner, no stayover. Penix has enough interest that the top 15 isn't off the table for him. If Atlanta were to take Michael Penix at 8 or even 43, I would strongly disagree with this move. We've kind of covered this subject before on recent episodes, but let me just condense it all and summarize it, hopefully for the last time. Invest in your $180 million quarterback in Kirk Cousins. You have 2 picks in the top 50, and you're in arguably the weakest division in the NFL. You should be using those picks to better your roster to maximize Kirk Cousins' short stay with the Atlanta Falcons that you invested $180 million into. You can do that by giving him wide receivers to throw to, offensive linemen to protect him, defensive backs to make sure you maintain a lead, pass rushers to get after the opposing quarterbacks. I simply do not care which position it is other than quarterback. That is the only spot where you are not going to have a better product on the field. Michael Penix could become a really good quarterback in the NFL. I don't think it's going to be with the Atlanta Falcons because they have made their bed. If you spent all that much money on Kirk Cousins, you should follow it up by improving the surrounding cast and crew, not drafting his replacement before he even takes a snap for the team. And I'll add this. I know Jeremy Fowler said Penix may be long gone by pick 43. Hot take. I think he'll be there in round 2. I don't think Bo Nix or Michael Penix go in round 1 on Thursday night. I like Michael Penix too. That's the crazy thing about all this. I think Penix is the 4th best quarterback in this draft class. I just don't think it's a good time for Atlanta to use a top 50 pick on a Kirk Cousins replacement. It's a little bit tone deaf, given that you signed him to this monster contract for one big selling point, so that he could retire a Falcon. And before he even takes the field, you're already looking to replace the guy. I don't think that's going to sit very well. And I don't think you should make decisions based on Kirk Cousins' feelings, but you do have a $180 million investment in the guy. Like, that's a big enough investment where maybe you should weigh in what his view on the whole thing would be about. Just some food for thought. So if you were Terry Fontenot, would you take Penix at 8 or 43? Either one. Just, are you interested in Michael Penix? If he fell to round 5, sure. Value alone, fine by me. You can still have your top 2 picks be devoted to other positions that can help this team in 2024 and 2025. But for me, I'm passing. Now here's how my big board is shaking out for Atlanta at pick number 8. These are how I rank the players. I think Rome Odunze, again, with some level of expectation for who could be there at these picks. I like Rome Odunze the most, followed by Malik Neighbors. Dallas Turner really being boosted up a lot because of the positional need for Atlanta. Quickly followed by Terrion Arnold and Jared Verse. The difference between Odunze and Neighbors is minute. The difference between Neighbors and the next 3 is rather large. But I understand that Atlanta made no investment in the pass rushing position this offseason, and a top 10 pick is likely going to be made on one, whether I like it or not. As for pick 43, here are my rankings. Again, can't say definitively who's going to be there, but if Kool-Aid McKinstry was there, he would be my number 1 guy. If Ladd McConkey's there, shortly after Kool-Aid McKinstry, I think Kool-Aid can probably have a longer, well, I would say longer, but I'm higher on Kool-Aid. That's what I'm trying to say. Max Melton, the cornerback out of Rutgers, I have him 3. I've got Braden Fisk at number 4, and then I've got South Carolina's Xavier Legette at number 5. I don't think A.D. Mitchell or Xavier Worthy are going to be there. I don't think Jerzon, Johnny Newton, or Byron Murphy is going to be there at 43. But I think I could see a world where like Troy Franklin's there, and he does not crack my top 5 actually. So with that all being said, draft day, round 1 is nearly upon us. Make sure to subscribe. We're going to keeping you guys in the loop throughout the entirety of the 2024 NFL Draft. So do not miss a thing here when you're subscribed to the channel. Would you draft Penix at 8 or 43? What do we think, boys and girls? What do we think? I like McLovin. Agree with your ranks, PD. Thank you. I look at my ranks as if someone put a gun to my head and said, which of these 5 guys is going to be a Pro Bowler the most? I put them in that order.
Fair.
And sure, Terry Fontenot, I kind of meant to say this in the video. He had his press conference yesterday, and he had a line that kind of caught my attention. It was like, it's not about what other people think we should do. It's not about the best player available. It's about the best player for us. And to me, that gave me traits of factoring in positional value. Knowing this guy may be a really good center. But if we like our center, we'll take an edge rusher. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm passing on Penix. I like Penix a lot. I think he's going to have a good NFL career. If Kirk Cousins was entering the final year of his contract, I'd be all over it. I really would. But not before he takes even the first snap of a 4-year contract, which he may not serve all 4 years. I think he'll be here for 3. And if he's here for 3, Penix is a backup for 3 years. If you get him in round 1, you could pick up his 5th-year option, and then he'd be under rookie control for 2 years. You got 2 years to make a decision as to whether or not he's the guy. It sounds easy right now. It took more than 2 years for the Giants to figure out if Daniel Jones was the guy. It took more than 2 years for the Bears to figure out if Justin Fields was the guy.
Which shouldn't have taken that long for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, I don't get it all. Daniel Jones sucked. So I don't know if 2 years is enough. Because you can always come up with excuses. All right, took more than 2 years for like the Eagles. You know, the Rams. Well, I guess not. No, they gave him extension. So that's a bad example. Strike that from the record, please. Should we look into my final mock draft? Are we ready?
I'm about to say, dude, we're roughly near 24 hours away.
I'm watching draft day tonight too.
Ooh.
My girlfriend Shay does not know that yet. But that will be on TV. It's a tradition unlike any other. Every year before the draft day.
Yeah.
Every year I come up with new crazy shit about that movie that I can't understand. I already know what it is this year. The fact that Sonny Weaver Jr. had to defend his stance of not having his father's funeral on the day of the NFL draft is asinine that he was put in that position.
Yep.
It's the biggest day of your son's professional career as a GM. And you decide, let's have the funeral today. That's not on Sonny Weaver Jr. That's on his mother.
That's on.
Okay, we're going to have a mailbag later on. If you want to skip the line, by the way, feel free to super chat. No pressure. Very much appreciated, though. And we'll guarantee your question gets on screen for all 191 plus viewers watching right now. But with that being said, boys and girls, for one last time, a complete 7-round Atlanta Falcons mock draft. Are we ready? Let's get into it. For the final time, we're going to run through a complete 7-round Atlanta Falcons mock draft for the people. Now, quick reminder, come hang out with us for round 1 here at the Atlanta Falcons Today YouTube channel, as we'll be live for round 1 of the draft. So if you are looking for a spot to take the draft in that doesn't involve like ESPN sharing really sad and depressing stories about all these prospects on the biggest days of their lives, come hang out with us because we'll actually be talking about football. But let's talk about what Atlanta has to work with in the draft. Quick refresher, they have 8 picks in the upcoming draft, and I think we could see some movement from them. But let's get into our mock draft, beginning with the 8th overall pick, where I have the Atlanta Falcons selecting Alabama outside linebacker Dallas Turner. I know this is very chalky, but I'm going to do my best to predict what actually will happen, not what I would do, because I'm not the one making the calls here. And to me, Dallas Turner just makes too much sense. It has been the most commonly mocked player throughout all of mock drafts this entire offseason. 6'3", 247, and he runs faster than wide receivers when he gets after the quarterback. Athletically, he's one of the better edge rushers we have seen in the draft over the last few years. Now, he's not one of the biggest. He's right around 250, and I could see Atlanta trying to put some weight on him, but he's not going to be like an Aiden Hutchinson-sized defensive end. But what he will be able to do is fill out his frame a little bit more and be an awesome piece of clay for Raheem Morris to mold into an absolute quarterback-seeking heat missile. Now, he does have a tendency to vanish from time to time. 9 out of the 14 games last year for the Crimson Tide, he had 3 or fewer pressures, but he still was generating a lot of production. 15 tackles for loss, 10 sacks. He was in the shadow of Will Anderson, his best friend for a while, but last year, all eyes were on him, and he still delivered for the Crimson Tide. The Falcons need help up front for their pass rush. Lorenzo Carter and Malone cannot be rotational members of this pass rushing unit if teams want to take Atlanta seriously. This may not be the best player on the board, but I think position-wise, it's just going to carry too much weight for Atlanta to pass on Dallas Turner. I will add, you could see the Falcons trade out of pick number 8 if they get a really good offer because a team wants to move up and get a wide receiver like Roma Dunze, or if J.J. McCarthy starts to slip, or if the Falcons want to stockpile 2025 draft picks because they fear the NFL may throw the book at them for the tampering allegations revolving around Kirk Cousins. But for one last time, Dallas Turner is a Falcon. I will put it in stone right now. Rosetta Stone, move over. You have a new piece of history. So let me know, should the Falcons draft Dallas Turner? Do you like this pick or not? Just black and white, yes or no. On to round number 2, where I tossed and turned with this, but I went with cornerback Max Melton out of Rutgers. I think the Falcons may wait for wide receiver, given they have 2 third-round selections, and the wide receiver draft class is much deeper than the cornerback draft class. Now, here's the background on the Rutgers DB. 5'11", $187, really athletic, really quick, great linear speed, 4.39 40-yard dash. He was a 4-year starter for the Scarlet Knights, outstanding speed and ball skills. There's a lot to like about Max Melton. There's also a lot to be concerned about, and I think that's why he's not going to go round 1. He's a bit handsy. He tends to have some laundry around him on the field, and then there's some character concerns. In September of 2021, he was arrested for a drive-by paintball gun shooting. Very strange. Not a good thing. People got hurt. Don't really know what led to him thinking that was a good idea. He was suspended 3 games by Rutgers, and he says he learned from it and grew up. And hey, everyone makes mistakes when they're in college. I sure hope that my future employers don't look back at the decisions I made at Tennessee when I was 19, 20, 21 years old. But if Atlanta can move on from those character concerns and feel like he's learned from that and he's matured, then I think from a football standpoint, this pick makes a lot of sense, especially when you look at Atlanta's DB room. A.J. Terrell is entering the final year of his contract. Is Clark Phillips ready to take on a CB2 role? Brand new coaching staff on the defensive side coming in here. Don't know how they view Clark Phillips, a pick made last year by Atlanta. So I think the Falcons ultimately with Raheem Morris, they will double dip on defense with their first 2 selections since they took A.J. Terrell and Marlon Davidson back in 2020 because Arthur Smith has leaned heavily on offense to begin the draft the last few years. I think Raheem Morris, he pushes back and he goes defense with his first 2 picks. Now, before we get to the next selection, we actually have a trade as I am making some moves for the Falcons where I have Atlanta jumping back into the end of round 2, giving the Detroit Lions, who are a little bit short on draft capital this year, the 74th overall pick, the first of Atlanta's 2 third-rounders, and the Falcons' 4th rounder to jump up 13 spots. And after jumping up 13 spots, I've got the Falcons taking Florida wide receiver Ricky Pearsall. Now, this would be a bit of a fall for Pearsall, but there's a lot of really good wide receivers in this draft that we're not really sure of that second and third tier, who goes in what order. But if he really is available at the end of round 2, I think Atlanta should be aggressive. They should look for quality over quantity at this point and move up for the surefire hands guy from Gainesville, who ran a 6'1", who's 6'1", 191, and ran a 4.41 40-yard dash. Watching him at Florida last year, he didn't strike me as a guy that would move that quickly at the combine. He's an incredible route runner, which I know that term can tend to be used very loosely. What does that mean, really? Like, I mean, he's good at running routes. What I mean is he's got great recognition of how the defense lines up, and based on the type of formation and the coverage and the play call they're in, he knows where to go. He knows how to read a defense going, all right, if you want to give me this zone, I'll sit right here, and it'll be an easy completion for my quarterback. He's also got the best hands. Like, when you really think about what a wide receiver's number one job is, it's to catch the football. And Ricky Pearsall, he may be top 3 in this draft at pure catching abilities. And then you look at Atlanta's wide receiver room, which have seen some additions so far through free agency with Darnell Mooney and trading for Rondale Moore, but I don't think they should be satisfied. I also think the Atlanta Falcons' Zach Robinson offense will see a lot of 11 personnel, and that means 3 wide receivers on the field at once. This wide receiver room is rather thin. If one of those 3 guys suffers an injury, like, players that no one knows will be taking meaningful snaps. They should add to this wide receiver room in the first 2 days of the draft. Get aggressive for a wide receiver in rounds 2 to 3. It's a very deep wide receiver class, so I don't mind going cornerback first if I'm Atlanta, but take one of your 2 third-round picks, bundle it with something else, and move up to get a guy at the end of round number 2. We're going to look at the rest of my mock draft in just a moment, but first, I do want to share with you guys some awesome information about our proud sponsor today, Game Time. If you want to go catch a Braves game or a concert at the Fox Theater or any other local sporting event, make sure you download the Game Time app and get $20 off your first purchase with the code CHATSPORTS. Now, one of my favorite features about Game Time is if you don't like planning in advance, which isn't me, but I hang out with those just absolute heathens, well, with Game Time, you can actually get tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after the event kicks off. So download the Game Time app today and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video, but shout out to Game Time and get $20 off when you use code CHAT Sports. Terms apply, but Game Time, it's the best place for last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. On to round number 3, where the Falcons at pick 79, the latter of their 2 third-rounders, they go defensive tackle from Clemson in this mock, Rook Ororo. Now, he's 6'4", 294 pounds, 3-year starter for Clemson that's got really good athletic traits. The issue is I think he fell victim to Clemson just kind of sucking the last few years, and there wasn't a lot of spotlight on him. But you can look at what he's done the last few years for the Tigers. 5 sacks, 4 sacks, back-to-back seasons from the interior defensive line. People are raving about his size and speed, and I think this would be a wise investment for Atlanta. Grady Jarrett's coming off a torn ACL. He's going to be 30 years old. David Onyemata's already on the wrong side of 30. I think investing in the trenches is never a bad idea. And the last thing you want to see is Kirk Cousins put up 32 points for the Falcons, but then the defense can't make a stop on 3rd and 3, and the other team gets a first, and they're in field goal range, and they win at 33-32. So investing in your defensive line is never a bad idea in my book. Moving on here, no 4th rounder. Remember, that was traded away to get Ricky Pearsall. But in round 5, I go quarterback now, and I go with Michael Pratt out of Tulane. One, I am in the mindset of it's never a bad idea to take a quarterback. It's just such a valuable position. It's the most valuable position in all of professional sports. It's worth throwing a dart at every single year in the draft. And there's a lot to like about Michael Pratt. And I think he could really benefit from sitting behind a guy like Kirk Cousins, where I see a lot of similarities in their gameplay. First off, good size, lots of experience, started 43 games for the Green Wave. He doesn't have incredible arm strength, but then again, it's not like Kirk Cousins has an absolute howitzer of an arm. So we can really learn from Kirk Cousins too. How do you overcome not having the strongest arm in the league to be as successful and as rich as you are? Now, Pratt has a lot of experience, but that also means he's got a lot of wear and tear on his body. Look at his stats over the last 4 years. He's got one thing consistent. He's played nearly 90% of every season, but he's never actually been able to really put together a full, complete season because he's always dealt with an injury or two from time to time. So I think Atlanta will likely end up drafting a quarterback. I don't think it's wise, smart, intelligent, insert whatever Mad Lib adjective you want for them to do it in the first 3 rounds of the draft. But in round 5, I don't mind adding a backup quarterback because it's not like Taylor Heineke should have that job just gifted to him. Why not bring Pratt in for some competition? Because half of the teams learned last year you need to have a good backup QB because your starter may go down. So for Atlanta, bring in some good backup play for the Falcons. Now, what round would you draft a QB? Very much okay with them going quarterback in round 5. Maybe even round 4, to be honest with you. I do think backup quarterback, if you're ranking all 53 spots on the roster, probably slots in around 30. It's not more important than any of the 22 starters, but it's pretty close to some of those backups. So I'd go with round 5. On to round 6 now in this mock draft, where I'm going to go with Ohio State safety Josh Proctor at pick 187. He's 6'1", 199 pounds. Doesn't have elite athletic traits to his game, and that's why he's going to be a day 3 pick. 4.45 40-yard dash. He's also on the older side. He's dealt with a lot of injuries in Columbus. 25 years old, suffered some pretty gruesome injuries for the Buckeyes. But last year, he was one of the better safeties in college football, and that really showed. I mean, from his coverage standpoint to the playmaking abilities, a lot of tackles, showed that he can take down players in open space. In Atlanta's safety room, it's got an all-pro in Jesse Bates, but then there are some questions. Like, is DeMarco Hellams ready to be a starter? Are they ready to move on from Richie Grant as a starter? I think in day 3, you can take a roll of the dice on a guy like Josh Proctor, who a lot of teams are going to overlook because of the age and the injury history, but Atlanta can afford to take a flyer on him because if it doesn't work out, they weren't banking on him being the starter. And if it does, they're going to get a guy that was super productive last year that slipped through the cracks because of injuries and age, and that may benefit Atlanta, and that's a way they can find him in round 6. Now, a teammate that I don't think Josh Proctor will be too fond of is Michigan edge rusher Jalen Harrell. This is how I wrap up the mock draft here at pick 197. 6'3", 247 pounds, almost identical size to Dallas Turner. And this is just going to show how athletic Dallas Turner is. Harrell ran a 4.68 40-yard dash. Turner ran a 4.47. So we're talking 0.2 of a second faster. Now, he was a 2-year starter for Michigan. And if you talk to fans of the Wolverines, they'll tell you he is a high-motor, extremely effort and competitive-driven player that led the Wolverines in a lot of categories last year, which was the best defense in college football, arguably. So, sure, he may not be the fastest or the strongest or the lengthiest player in this draft, but if you're one of the best players on the best defense in college football, something tells me that when the pads come on, you know how to play the game. So I'm very much okay with double dipping at edge rusher to round out this draft. Now, how would you grade my mock draft? Let me know down in the comment section. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I'd give myself an A-. I really do like this mock draft that I cooked up, and I hope Terry Fontenot had a pen and paper and was taking notes. Now let's look at how I think the actual round 1 is going to go. Just going to throw one more mock draft your way because why not? I've got Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May going top 3. There's a lot of smoke around New England. I think they stay put. At 4, I've got the Vikings trading up with the Cardinals to get J.J. McCarthy. After trading back, I've got Arizona jumping back up yet again with the Chargers and getting Marvin Harrison all along. I think the Giants go get their next Odell Beckham and Malik Neighbors. The Titans improve the worst offensive line of football with Joe Alt. The Falcons go chalk with Dallas Turner. The Bears go with Roma Dunze for Caleb Williams. The Jets, I could see trading back actually, but for now, I'm going to go with a pretty chalky prediction of Brock Bowers, but I don't love it. The Chargers end up getting Olu Fashanu at pick 11, exactly who Jim Harbaugh wants, and he gets extra draft capital in return. I could see the Rams trading up to pick number 12 with the Broncos to go get a Marius Mims. Not a lot of experience, only 8-9 starts with the Bulldogs, but he has nearly an identical wingspan to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Something tells me Sean McVay will pound the table for him. At 13, I've got the Raiders going defense with Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. And then at 14, the worst-kept secret in the NFL, the Saints need an offensive lineman. So Talisi Fuaga, you're a Saint. At 15, the Colts go Terrion Arnold. I think Byron Murphy's not going to go as high as some of the recent chatter believes you will be. I've got the Seahawks taking him at 16. They need help on that D-line. At 17, Jags go Brian Thomas after losing Calvin Ridley. At 18, the Bengals are going to go Jerzon Johnny Newton after losing DJ Reader to the Lions in free agency. The Broncos traded back with the Rams. I think they go pass rusher with Leatu Latu at 19. I've got the Steelers going offensive line. The Dolphins go with Jared Verse at 21. They lost a lot of pass rushers in free agency. I think the Eagles are going to stay at 22, but they could move up, and they land Cooper DeJean. The Chargers are back in round one with all the trades they made. They go Kool-Aid McKinstry at 23. At 24, I think the Cowboys go get a versatile offensive lineman in Graham Barton. I think at 25, you're going to see the Packers try and replace David Bakhtiari with J.C. Latham. I've got the Bucks getting a new center for Baker Mayfield with Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, the best center in this draft. I think the Chiefs could actually leapfrog the Bills to go steal the number one wideout from Buffalo in A.D. Mitchell remaining. And then the Bills take the other Texas wide receiver in Xavier Worthy for Josh Allen's huge arm. At 29, I think the Lions go back to DB like they did in free agency with Nate Wiggins. At 30, I could see Lad McConkey following his old OC up to Baltimore. At 31, I've got the 49ers going Jordan Morgan. All they really need is help on the O-line. And then at 32, after making a trade with the Chiefs, I have the Cardinals getting a new center for Kyler Murray in Zach Frazier from West Virginia. NC. So let me know what you think of my mock draft. I can't wait to see you guys for round one of the NFL draft. We'll be live here on the channel, so make sure you come hang out with us. Get your questions in.
Also, did you see some well, I guess you weren't because we were doing the cut.
We got news?
Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins both requested trades out of Cincinnati.
No fucking way.
They did.
Trey Hendrickson?
Trey Hendrickson.
Why?
Yep.
He wants to get out.
Yeah. Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins have requested to be traded per Adam Schefter.
Oh my God. Guys, is Trey Hendrickson a Falcon?
Speaking of
Is Trey Hendrickson a Falcon?
that could be something.
Oh, Nelly.
Where
I think Trey Hendrickson's a Falcon. Start looking for homes in Flowery Branch, Alpharetta. I think he would prefer to be near the practice facility. Trey, you better learn ATL. You're a Falcon. Trey Hendrickson may be a Falcon.
So we got Carson actually with the question. Trey for Hendrickson.
Yeah, there it is. Oh, I like this. And I didn't even think about the Saints connection. Carson. Handshake. What's funny is, behind the scenes here, Colin and I, before we started live, we're talking about what time we're going to come in tomorrow morning. And I told Colin, like, there could be something that drops tomorrow that I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And this is what exactly I was talking about.
I freaking...
You don't know what it's going to be.
Yep.
But you kind of know that something could come your way. And it's just about, does it relate to the team you cover or not?
Yeah.
Oh, Trey Hendrickson should be a foul. I like it.
I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of Trey Hendrickson questions. Rightfully so.
Okay, you know what? Let's do this. Can you please move over Adam Schefter's tweet and a Trey Hendrickson stat?
Yep.
And we'll do a cut. And that way we don't have to come in tomorrow morning. We'll just do it right now.
Okay.
And we'll have these mailbag questions a part of it.
That's part of it? Okay.
That's not like a good idea to everyone?
Yep, here.
Are we all about that? Colin lives like an hour from the office, so I felt really bad having him come in early tomorrow morning. Also, super chat to get Colin an apartment closer to our office.
Please.
For Atlanta terms, imagine if our office was like Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Colin lives in Lake Lanier. Like in the middle of the lake, he has to get on a boat and then go to like Beaufort or something and then drive down. Colin does not live anywhere near the office. So, super chat to either support his gas bill or get him an apartment closer to our office.
Please. Anything
Damn.
much really appreciated.
I do, like, this stuff doesn't happen very often, but when news breaks, when I'm in the middle of a cut like that,
Yeah.
I feel like I am living in the past where all of you guys watching know something I don't know, and I'm standing up here like an idiot. Like,
I was sitting there the entire time. I was looking at the chat. The chat's going crazy. They were like sending in their questions using hashtag Falcons. Oh, man.
I mean, let me just toss this your direction right now, everyone watching.
Yep.
Trey Hendrickson for pick 43.
Who says no?
Who says no? I think the Bengals say no. I'll tell you that much.
The Bengals
now,
will.
I think Trey Hendrickson wants a new contract. That seems to be the most likely reason for this trade request. I don't know his contract details off the top of my head. Trey Hendrickson contract. I didn't think he's entering a contract year. Trey Hendrickson contract. What does our friends at Spotrac say? Trey Hendrickson. Not transactions.
This is really bad radio, by the way, guys, but really do appreciate you all staying to tune in.
What the heck is Trey Hendrickson's contract?
They said it.
He is under contract for 2024 and 2025. I'm trying to think of like what he signed.
Shout out to our
Bengals
channel for already having some stuff.
Oh, heck yeah. Let's go. Okay. He signed a 1-year contract extension. When was this? This was in July of last year. Received an additional $21 million. I mean, got $21 million. Hard to be complaining.
Right.
Wow.
Like, he must just, wants to win, maybe?
No, I think it's money driven. That's the only reason I can make sense of this. Can someone who's smarter tell me why?
Or somebody who's paying attention?
Yeah, Hendrickson is due to make $15 million this season and is looking for more long-term security than Cincinnati has been willing to offer.
Okay, there you go.
There's a few other graphics that I want you to get.
Okay.
Let me just slack you them.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, yeah. I'll slack you them. Can you get some shout-outs in the meantime? Because I'm doing a bad job at my job.
No, you're good.
What are people saying?
Yeah. Shout out to Archangel saying grab. Redbot saying I wish. Man, this chat is going crazy right now. Carson, PD first round swap plus pick 79 for the Bengals for Trey Hendrickson.
Who says this?
That was Carson.
Carson, what's going on, dude? First round pick swap plus 79. Bengals pick at 18. So go from 8 to 18 and add in a third rounder. Is that overpay, Carson? Dropping back 10 spots, giving him a third. Maybe it's not overpay. That kind of sounds fair. It can't be too far off. I don't know which side comes out as like a winner, but I'll tell you what, if Trey Hendrickson entered this draft, he would go before pick 18. So I don't hate that idea, Carson. I don't hate it. I don't think you'd have to give up that much, though. I could see it being like, what if it was just simply 8 for 18 and Trey Hendrickson? Mm-hmm. And then the Bengals can go get Dallas Turner at 8 and reset and get cheaper.
Good option.
Yeah.
Grabbing a couple.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, bring them all.
Yeah.
Wow, Trey Hendrickson. Did not see that one coming.
Yeah, that one's
That's a surprise.
That one is.
I also like that T. Higgins is like, hey, I still want to get traded.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still.
Just
please don't forget about me.
Just in case you know.
The Bengals are in a tough spot as a franchise. This is what happens when you're kind of like the Pittsburgh Pirates of baseball, but you actually have to pay your players. Like, they had to pay Joe Burrow. Like, Paul Skeens is going to make a great pitcher for the New York Yankees in 6 years when the Pittsburgh Pirates don't pay him.
Yeah.
They are paying Joe Burrow. They've already paid Joe Burrow, and they will pay Jamar Chase. And they are the poorest ownership in the NFL. And that's not like a dig at them. It's just factual. The Bengals ownership is not a business. It's not like Arthur Blank with Home Depot and all of his other, investments, if you will. Their business is the Bengals. They don't have a ton of cash to spend on players, which I know that's hard to wrap your head around because they're billionaires. But they're the billionaires that would cheap out and sneak popcorn or sneak candy into a movie theater. That's how poor of billionaires they are. Let's see. Archangel's here. TG says T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson for a first-round pick. Actually, could you move also T. Higgins stuff over? We can kind of lump the two together, I think.
Yeah. Here, hold on. I'm just going to throw something real quick.
We'll talk about, let's talk about T. Higgins for a moment. Pick 43 for T. Higgins. It's actually right around where he was drafted, too. Might even be to the exact spot he was drafted. So, could you imagine? What if it was like T. Higgins? Okay. T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson to Atlanta for pick 8 and pick 76 or 74. Top 10 pick in a third rounder for Higgins and Hendrickson. Who says no?
Say that one more time. Sorry.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Pick number 8 and pick 74.
Mm-hmm.
And let's toss in a 5th.
Okay.
For T and Hendrickson. The Bengals at 8 can go get Rome Odunze to quickly replace T. Higgins.
That's insane.
And then at pick round 3 and round 5, they're not going to replace Trey Hendrickson, but they're going to get a much cheaper player.
Mm-hmm.
I would do it. Now, you got to pay both those guys. That's kind of the real kick in the nuts right there.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think Atlanta would. I didn't get that far in my theory. Well,
yeah, because
that could be a downer.
Yeah,
you'd have to extend them both. I don't think Atlanta would do that. Okay, so they're not getting both. Got to pick one. It was fun when you didn't think about the money side of things.
Yeah.
Then that part was a real downer.
Money does ruin everything.
Stupid money. Okay. Bengals got that very. Let's see. Lopez, we don't get that much money. Yeah. That's unfortunate. Savage Falcon says 8 and 43 for 18 T and Trey. Savage, I think it would be 8-43 for T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, and the Bengals second rounder. I think Cincinnati would not give up 18 and those two players for 8 and 43. I think they would part ways with their second rounder. That's actually, I don't think they would, but that'd be more fair. You could get it done financially. Does Arthur Blank want to pay all those bills? He may not want to have all those salaries on his tab. Matthew Peterson, who is the most likely bust in the draft? I got one name for you. And I feel bad when I answer these questions because these guys are so excited for tomorrow, and here I am being a rain cloud. I do have concerns about Nate Wiggins because of his size. And in the combine, that was evident when he already had a soft tissue injury pop up. I do worry that he may run into injuries throughout his NFL career. So, Nate Wiggins, the corner from Clemson, is not a guy that I am super confident on. Okay.
I know I'm practicing bad practices over
there.
No.
We're good.
Would you be interested in this one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's
and then
do that.
Also I got this.
Yeah.
And
let's jump right into it.
Hold on. Yeah, I got to fix that one. But then after that, we are ready to.
Okay, so we're going to break down the Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins news, talk about, whether or not the Falcons could theoretically or realistically pull off a trade for either player. I think if they were to go after one, Trey Hendrickson would be the more logical and likely candidate, given that Atlanta has expressed interest in trading for pass rushers before, most notably Montez Sweat last year at the trade deadline. And they were interested in getting Danielle Hunter if they didn't sign Kirk Cousins. So they have shown an interest and willingness to spend at that position. They've just struck out. That's really as simple as it is. Swing and a miss.
Yeah.
But maybe this time, like, foul tip, and they get another crack at it.
Do we need a sponsor for this?
No. If you tell anyone.
I
All right, so let's do this. You guys get to see how the sausage is made. Let's jump right into the Adam Schefter tweet.
The original one.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Got it.
And then we'll run through the Falcons draft picks as like, hey, here's what they could give up to get him. And then we'll kind of go through the stats. And then let's hit some of the questions about Hendrickson and T. Higgins.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a good plan to all of you guys watching?
Yeah. I can kind of, I'll navigate it.
Yeah. You drive the ship.
I'll drive the
I'm your talking monkey. Everything I say, by the way, Colin says in my ear. Every single word. Just that, right? Again and again.
Oh, my goodness.
All right.
Wow, what a freaking day we're having.
Yeah.
Hopefully y'all are enjoying this. This is my first time at least being kind of in this situation, so we're going to see how it goes.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, my friends. We've got some breaking NFL news to get to here as Adam Schefter is reporting that the Bengals' three-time Pro Bowler defensive end Trey Hendrickson has requested to be traded from Cincinnati. Hendrickson is due to make $15 million this season and is looking for more long-term security than Cincinnati has been willing to offer. And to add on to that, T. Higgins has also been requesting a trade. So we're going to talk about whether or not Atlanta could trade for one of these two players, which one would make more sense, and whether or not Terry Fontenot can get a deal done before the clock strikes midnight. But let's at least look at the Falcons 2024 draft picks here, as the Atlanta Falcons have a first and their second and a couple of thirds to work with. And I could see Atlanta definitely having some interest in a guy like Trey Hendrickson because they have swung and missed on a handful of pass rushers. Montez Sweat, they were looking to get at the trade deadline last year. Ultimately, he went to the Bears. Reports were that they didn't get Kirk Cousins. They were going to go a full court press for Danielle Hunter or Christian Wilkins. So they have shown an interest in getting pass rushers. They just haven't been able to land one. Trey Hendrickson may be the saving grace for them. He's one of the best pass rushers in football the last few years. I know he's not a household name, but he kind of should be. 17.5 sacks last year for the Bengals, coming off an 8-sack season before that and 14-sack season prior to that. Now, he's looking for a new contract, but I think Atlanta would be okay with giving out a big contract because they've been trying to do it with other players. They just haven't been able to either get the deal done or have the space in free agency with Danielle Hunter. So I believe that Atlanta should express interest in Trey Hendrickson. The question then just becomes, how much do you want to give up for him? Now, would you trade for Trey Hendrickson? Give me a yes or give me a no. While you're answering the question, let's go back to the 2024 draft picks Atlanta has. Because I think a good way to answer this question is, what would a trade look like? I think you can go a handful of directions. What if it's Atlanta and the Bengals swap 8 for 18 and the Falcons get Trey Hendrickson? What if it's Atlanta just gives up one of their second or third round picks for Hendrickson straight up? Or what if, and this one would have some limitations due to financial reasons, you made it a three-way and you got T. Higgins involved as well. And you had T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson, and the Falcons all involved in a trade. And this one's definitely reaching for the stars here. But you have T. Higgins, Hendrickson come to the Falcons, and Atlanta gives Cincinnati pick number 8, pick 43, and Cincinnati tosses in a third rounder to get the deal done. Could you imagine just the Atlanta Bengals? You've already got Jesse Bates down there. He can show them places to live. T. Higgins, Hendrickson. Like, you'd have to pay both these guys. They both are looking for contract extensions. That would be the greatest hurdle to get past. I think it'd be even tougher than the actual draft capital required to acquire these two players. But that would be a lot of fun. It's probably a little bit of fan fiction, but I think we can all agree, getting T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson, I would sign up for that over Dallas Turner and pick 43. Would you? Now, Carson, as we're live here on Falcons Today, is in our chat section saying, trade for Trey Hendrickson? He requested a trade now, and Carson with a great point that Terry Fontenot, who used to be with New Orleans Saints, was a part of the regime that drafted Hendrickson out of Florida Atlantic. And Hendrickson has been one of the best pass rushers in the game the last 3-4 seasons. He is third in sacks ahead of Hassan Reddick and Nick Bosa since 2020. If this graphic looks familiar to you, it's because we used it a lot when talking about trading for Hassan Reddick. Little did we know the hotter girl would be available in Trey Hendrickson. And for everyone watching that wants Atlanta to draft Jared Verse, I remember doing a player comp video for Atlanta's top draft targets, and for Jared Verse, I gave Trey Hendrickson. Now, it's not a perfect comp, but they have a lot of physical similarities, and they've got a lot of similar tendencies in their tenaciousness, their effort to overcome maybe not being the best athlete on the field, and their willingness to support and stop the run. So I think Trey Hendrickson would be a fantastic trade for the Atlanta Falcons, whether it's a round 2 pick or a round 3 pick. If Hendrickson wins this draft, ask yourself this question. Would you get a better player at that same position at pick 43? The answer is no. I'll answer that question for you. So go get him and have a surefire pass rusher and not put all your eggs in the rookie basket for 2024. Now, quick reminder, we will be live here on the channel for round 1 of the NFL draft. So drop an ATL in the comment section below if you'll be hanging out with us. I want to run through some other live comments as we are filming this during our live edition of Falcons Today. MD, 879, and next year second. For Vikings, 11 and 23. Pick up Terrion Arnold and Leatu Latu. And then Falcons trade 43 for Hendrickson. A lot of moving pieces. I don't think the Vikings would do that. I think if they're making a trade with 11 and 23, it's to get a quarterback. So unless J.J. McCarthy is there at 8, that to me seems unlikely. But at 43 for Hendrickson straight up, I'm in. No questions asked. MD, appreciate your question. Let's see. Green Cat adding a little bit of context that Trey Hendrickson, who has 2 years left on his contract, 2024 and 2025, is looking for more long-term deals, years added to it. The issue is he's on the worst possible team to make this request. The Bengals are broke. Not actually, but they are the poorest owners, okay? They don't have a business. Arthur Blank has Home Depot. He's got other ventures. There's no Home Depot for the Brown family in Cincinnati. Their business is the Bengals. And it's, sure, an NFL team, they're going to get a lot of money, but they don't get a ton of cash. And when you think about contracts, just going to throw out like arbitrary numbers, $200 million contract with $100 million guaranteed. If you put $100 million guaranteed into a contract, you have to have, I believe the percentage is 75 to 80% set aside of that $100 million. Because who's to say if you went out of business the very next day, you would be able to fulfill that $100 million guaranteed. There are some NFL owners that can get that type of cash ready. The Bengals can't. I think you have to have 75 or 80% within the year of giving out the contract. So it's not on the moment, but over the next year, you have to put aside that much cash. I don't think the Bengals can do that for Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Hendrickson, and T. Higgins. So is Atlanta willing to pony up? Arthur Blank is one of the richest owners. I'd hope if he's serious about wanting to see a Super Bowl parade in Atlanta, as he is on the wrong, well, that's mean, as he is 80 plus years old and dealing with medical incidents like he couldn't attend Kirk Cousins' introductory press conference because of it, he should go all in right now for Trey Hendrickson. Another question coming in. Is it possible for the Falcons to double dip edge rusher once again? If Atlanta can get Hendrickson without giving up pick number 8, I am not opposed to going Dallas Turner and Hendrickson. It definitely gives you more flexibility that if you picked, if Terry Fontenot or Raheem Morris were picking Dallas Turner mostly because of positional need versus where he's on their board, this allows you to go get a guy that maybe they're in love with, like a Quinyon Mitchell, a Terrion Arnold, a Roma Dunze. But if they still like Dallas Turner a lot, and it's not even so much about the need, but because he's super high up on their big board, who says no to a pass rushing unit of Turner and Hendrickson, Arnold Ebiketie? Like, that's a really good way to correct the biggest positional issue with his franchise's history. ATL fan, pick swap for Hendrickson, then draft Arnold or Cooper DeJean. I would prefer Terrion Arnold, but like I was just saying, this gives you the flexibility that if you are in love with Arnold, but you just think you have to go edge because you don't have another edge, you can now go get the guy maybe you deep down wanted to draft this whole time. So trading for Hendrickson, if you can hold on to pick number 8, which I think you would be able to, maybe it's like an 8 for 18 swap and Hendrickson goes to Atlanta. You can get creative in what it would cost to get him. But to me, that would be a great trade for Atlanta to acquire Hendrickson. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone hanging out with us right before we get into the NFL draft. So make sure to come back and watch our content here for round 1 of the NFL draft. Would you trade for Trey Hendrickson? Let me know. Yes or no. I would do it in a heartbeat. Yes. I like to be rational when it comes to NFL decisions. This to me seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, this one addresses the need.
Yep.
It allows Atlanta the flexibility. Because then, can you imagine? Let's just say, how do I want to put this? Let's say straight up 43 for Hendrickson.
Yeah, just keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Yep,
right?
I'm with you.
Hendrickson, would replace your need. If Odunze or Neighbors falls with Kirk Cousins, Drake London, Odunze or Neighbors, Kyle Pitts, Bijan, that offensive line that's one of the more underrated ones in the NFL.
This guy gets it. Guys, last year Kirk Cousins played 8 games before tearing his ACL. In those 8 games, he had Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison.
Yep.
2 first-round picks.
Right.
Jordan Addison was having a phenomenal start to his NFL career. Kirk Cousins, on pace, was set to have the best statistical year of his entire NFL career.
Yeah.
You give him Drake London and Malik Neighbors,
yeah,
and Darnell Mooney's your number 3, and there's a guy named Bijan in the backfield,
yeah,
and we haven't even said Kyle Pitts' name yet.
Yep.
And you don't have to worry about pass rushing anymore because you have Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
I will send pick 43 to the Earth's core so fast if it means Atlanta does not have to draft just for need at pick 8 anymore.
But by the way, you already dug in. Dallas Turner's a Falcon. This could throw in a major wrench into things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Or if you think Dallas Turner is the guy, dude, Turner and Hendrickson are going to form a great pass rushing duo if Turner pans out to be a great edge rusher. And if he doesn't, you have Hendrickson.
Just curious.
Okay. I do think that you may not have to give up 43. I think you could probably you may get it done for 2 seconds, for 2/3. 74, maybe like 74 in like round 4 or 5. 2 picks, a 3rd and a 5th.
Right. Which also,
I think that could get close to what you need to get him.
So then picture this then.
Yeah.
You could get, again, one of the top 2 receivers. You get Hendrickson. And then at 43, you can go after one of your edge targets that you've been talking about.
Right.
43.
Brian Burns went for a 2nd and like a 5th.
Yeah, 2nd and 5th, yeah. Yeah.
Hendrickson, I would say, could go for maybe a 3rd and a 5th.
Yeah. 100% see that.
This is juicy for Atlanta.
I know.
This is juicy.
Hold on. If this man right here is not on the phone,
yeah,
in Cincinnati right now, we need to have a conversation.
We sure do.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Nearly 200 people tuned in. We are going to have to sign off. If we get a super chat, we can keep the show going. Otherwise, though, it is the day before the NFL draft, so a lot of teams or a lot of hosts here at Chat Sports are trying to get content out, and we can't hold up the studio space forever. But if we get super chats, that means we get to hold on to the studio space for an extended period of time.
By the way, thank you all for tuning in today and sending those awesome questions, because that
made
my life so much easier.
The viewership here asks great questions.
They do.
They really do. And I don't think I can say that for every single live channel. NFL draft tomorrow. I'm pumped.
God, we are so close to 24 hours.
We're so close, baby. Okay, vinegar strokes. Vinegar strokes. All right. Should we bid farewell?
I mean, here's the thing. I don't know how to do the dang timer.
It's okay. Don't worry.
I was going to say.
If we get a super chat in the next 60 seconds, we'll stay live. If not, we'll let you guys get back to the rest of your Wednesday night, and we'll get ready for tomorrow.
Yes.
Time to lock in. Strap in. Get ready.
It's my first draft here at Chat Sports, and I cannot wait.
I'm so excited to not sleep. I'm so excited to then sleep on Sunday.
Yes.
That's going to be a great 6 p.m. bedtime for me.
I've heard the sleep after Sunday draft weekend at Chat Sports is like.
This is my third draft. The Sunday after the draft, we work, like 18 hours a day, 3 straight days.
We work a lot.
And you'd think that like afterwards you'd want to have like a drink, like get together. Yeah. People just want to go home. Everyone just wants to go home and be alone. We all smell. We all been together.
Yep.
The next Friday, that's when you're like, let's cash in on all of our hard work.
Yeah, that's. I'm not gonna lie. I will have seen.
Ethan Greer with a $2 super chat. Let's go. Everyone spam Ethan in the chat right now. Let's go, Ethan. Ta-da. Appreciate you, Ethan.
Ta-da.
Little 2-clap action. Little 1-2. Let's go, Ethan. Let's go.
Easy money.
If they trade for Hendrickson, is the door closed for Campbell? I think the door for Campbell might have closed when they signed that Washington guy. Smith, what's his name? On the defensive line, he's got two. Williams.
Here, I can.
One of those two. That to me, James Smith-Williams. That to me was like, ooh, just signed a guy that exact same position. I'm not so sure that Atlanta's going to bring back Calais Campbell anymore.
Oh,
Complete the stage from across the pond. Let's go.
Let's get it.
Given the Hendrickson news backing out of Dallas, this is kind of why I'm proud of myself for not being a simp for Dallas Turner.
Mm-hmm.
He was never number one on my big board.
But he was the number one for the Falcons.
For the need.
Yeah.
But that's like, this gives you the flexibility of like, now you could do the Roma Dunze or Malik Neighbors pick that you probably deep down wanted to do the whole time.
Yeah.
But you just couldn't really come to grips with it because you needed pass rushers. If
it came down to it, 43 and a fifth.
I would do it.
Okay.
In a heartbeat.
Yep.
Blast that pick to the sun. This definitely, if they can get a Hendrickson trade done, this would really turn Atlanta's war room on its head for what their strategy is for pick 8. Archangel, are there any teams that could possibly move up for any wide receivers at 8? Teams that could move up for a wide receiver. Buffalo Bills, that'd be a huge jump. 20 spots.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs, I think the Chiefs are going to be content with knowing we can just stay put, and any wide receiver we draft, Patrick Mahomes will make them bearable.
They're probably going to get the 5th or 6th best wide receiver.
Jags and Colts are looking for wide receivers. Mm-hmm. So I'd go with Jags, Colts, or in order of where they're picking, Colts, Jags, and Bills. 3 teams that strike me as candidates to jump up to get a wide receiver. Archangel, appreciate your super chat, dude. Always good to see familiar faces in the chat. Archangel, longtime viewer here at the channel. I can't wait for tomorrow. So excited.
My leg is literally shaking.
Yeah. Dallas Turner round 2. Dallas Turner, and then Kool-Aid McKinstry, then Tez Walker, then Michael Hall, then Renardo Green, then Joe Milton. That's not a bad draft, dude. Won't lie. Not a bad draft right there.
Yeah.
Don't hate it. Don't hate it. NFL news and mock drafts. I do agree that Kool-Aid, I will add that this is a good reminder. Just because all the mock drafts you've been reading the last few months have this guy going round 1, doesn't mean he's a lock to go round 1. I'm old enough to remember last year when Will Levis went top 5. He didn't go round 1 at all. I'm old enough to remember last year when Jalen Hyatt went round 1. He went round 3. Or when Northwestern's defensive lineman Aditamiwa Adibware went round 1. So he went round 4.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Petey. Who is going to be most likely that consensus? Not like a guy that's borderline, but a guy that you're like, you've seen a lot in first-round mocks. You don't think he's going to go first round?
Let's go through my mock draft really quickly.
We can.
Let's do that.
Let's do it.
That's a good idea. Let's go through my mock draft here. Guys I could see falling out of round 1. I'm very confident that everyone I have going top 8 are going to be there, are going to go top 8. J.J. McCarthy could be this year's Will Levis, but I think there's way more smoke on McCarthy this year than there was on Levis last year.
I agree.
Everyone else is going round 1. Next bunch here. Amarius Mims is interesting. I think he will go round 1, but he only started, I think, 8 games for Georgia. He's a physical traits guy.
I just don't see him getting past Pittsburgh eventually.
Yes, I agree. I think of this list here, if I had to pick one, it would be Mims. The next set here. I think Johnny Newton from Illinois will go round 1 because defensive tackles that can get to the quarterback are few and far between, but he's not like the best athlete amongst everyone else in this round. Mm-hmm. Could Latu slip because of medicals? That's a possibility.
Yep.
I think Cooper DeJean will go round 1. I think there are some concerns of like, can you put him on an island with a player in man coverage and have him hold his own?
Yeah, but his versatility is going to keep him in some secondary room. Like he's going to be on the field in some shape or another, even if it's not on the outside.
Jackson Powers Johnson from the Bucks at 26. He's got some concussion issues already, and that's going to scare teams. So he could slip to round 2. I think Xavier Worthy could slip to round 2 as well. I know he just ran the fastest 40, but football is played with pads. It's not a track competition.
Right.
I'm not super high on Xavier Worthy as a result. Ladd McConkey is probably the most likely of this bunch to go round 2 because he doesn't have a ton of production to look at, but he does have some great, more than just traits, but like route running skills and nerdy things you look for in wide receivers. Zach Frazier, I think, is going to go round 2. I had him go round 1 of this mock because I think if the Cardinals pick at 32, after all the trades they've made, they could go with, like, what do we need? We need a center. Our center is a team's backup guard from 2 years ago. And Zach Frazier could step in and win that job immediately. So I'd go with Jackson Powers Johnson, Ladd McConkey, Zach Frazier. Who did I have in the prior list of names?
You had, oh my goodness.
Xavier Worthy.
Worthy.
Right there too. Cooper DeJean and Johnny Newton. Yeah. Those could be some guys that slip out of round 1.
You will not find a bigger fan of Jackson Powers Johnson than this guy right here. I think he's going to be a stud, but it literally all comes down to the medical with him.
Right.
So it's going to be tough. Could see him sliding potentially, maybe second round. I'd hate that because I think he's such a good prospect, but yeah, those are all great guesses, to be honest. I think what I'm still having trouble with is Xavier Worthy, Troy Franklin. I don't think the gap between those two is as big as people like to make it out to be, to your point. I understand Xavier Worthy ran like the fastest 40 ever.
Yeah.
But
so did John Ross.
Exactly.
And how did that work out?
Exactly. So I don't know. If you're really trying to make a splash play, I know there's a little bit of smoke that Miami even flirted with the idea of like just having the ultimate track team with Xavier Worthy, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and all that. I don't know. He'd be the one I'd really scratch my head at if a team drafted him round 1.
Matthew Petey fan, what's the biggest surprise at 8? I would say Byron Murphy. Like, keeping it somewhat in the realm of possibility, that would be a surprise to me. Byron Murphy. Yeah. All right. I kind of like what this one person is saying. Hunter, can the Falcons use 2025 draft picks before the tampering investigation is done? I don't know if the league would allow them to trade 2025 picks. But wouldn't it be kind of smart to trade like all your picks for next year?
We literally had that discussion. It was me and Sperry.
Trade all your picks next year to move up in this year's draft, so they have no picks to take away from you until 2026.
Yeah,
like maybe not all your picks, but what if you gave up like next year's first to get back in round 1 this year? I don't know.
I mean, it's an idea. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Hunter, I think you have a decent thought there. That had not crossed my mind.
Yeah, when that
I don't know if the NFL would allow it.
Yeah, because then at that point, the NFL will, I feel like, make it harsher than what it would have.
Probably. They will get really pissy.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Okay. Kyle, yeah, biggest surprise, I guess, would be taking Penix. I can't wrap my head around that actually being a possibility. But maybe. I sure hope not.
There's at least some smoke.
Yeah.
Maybe it may just be false smoke.
I think it's false smoke. All right. That will do it for us on our live show. I thank everyone for hanging out with us. Our final live until we are live for the NFL draft. Yeah. All right, boys and girls. Enjoy your Wednesday evenings. Watch draft day tonight. And I'll see you all tomorrow, bright and early.